A few weeks ago, Sigma very kindly sent me out the 100 to 400 f5 to 6.3 X-Mount lens, and I used it for a couple of weeks with my Fuji X-T5. The lens full frame equivalent is 150 to 600 mil, and this is a distance that I had never used before in any of my cameras. So it was a joy to try that and to see exactly how I would perform with the lens, but what exactly the lens would do and how it would capture things. Because I'm not familiar with that focal range at all. Anything above 300, 400, I'm not familiar with at all. So it was really interesting to see how the lens performed with that. The build quality of the lens is really, really good, and that's what helps, I think, keep the weight down as well. The barrel of the lens itself is a TSC, which is a thermal stable composite construction with a metal lens mount. The size and build quality of the lens is really surprising considering the focal range it has. It's a 100 to 400 lens and a full frame equivalent of 150 to 600. The lens only weighs 1,135 grams, and without the lens hood and closed and locked in place, only measures 20 centimetres, just under 20 centimetres. So it's a really small lens considering the focal range. And it would be great for, I didn't shoot any myself, but it would be great for portraits. It was great for landscape. It was really good for the air show. And I can see it being a really capable travel lens considering the weight and the size of it. Weather sealing comes in the form of a single gasket at the lens mount, and I can't find any other information whether it's weather sealed throughout the lens, so I'm not going to elaborate any further on that. The weight and the size of the lens, I could carry this around all day and it didn't once put a strain on me. It doesn't come with a tripod collar and you have to buy that separately, but at the same time I was able to capture a 9-stitch panorama very, very easily with the lens without a tripod, and I had no problems capturing that whatsoever. It also has up to 5 stops of image stabilisation on the Fuji X-Mount cameras. Now, as I mentioned, I shot all of my images with the Fuji X-T5, and I really liked the results that this lens produced. Some cases I wasn't good enough to do it, but that's mainly towards the aircraft side of things. But the lens is everything. On one of the hikes that we did, we planned a hike where we knew that there was going to be an inversion on that morning, so we planned that hike, and as I mentioned, the lens came in at the perfect time for that because I knew the distances that we could see. So I went up and I get quite a few shots of the inversion and looking above to the mountains beyond as well. And with that, I did expect air quality is not going to be that brilliant, so the images themselves are not going to be that sharp, but the lens surprised me at that as well, because the returning images were a lot sharper than I expected, considering the air conditions on that day. The lens itself consists of 22 elements and 16 groups, made up of 9 rounded diaphragm blades. The minimum focusing distance at 100mm is 112mm, I think it was, and at the 400mm then rose slightly to around about 160mm. So even if you're working close with the lens, you are getting the results you're after. I'm now in capture 1 for Fujifilm, and I just thought I'd let you see up close. I'm a big fan of 67%. If my image isn't sharp at 67%, I will not edit it any further. So as you can see by this though, this is at 120mm, and look at the detail the lens captures, even right out to the edges. They're lovely, sweet lenses to use. I really enjoyed my time with this lens, And if I take that out, that's the image there. I'll go to the next one where I zoomed into 400%. I'll take that up to 67. There we are. So you can see the detail that the lens actually captures on the X-T5 and right out to the edges here. I have no problems whatsoever in using this lens for anything at all, and I actually found it really, really fun to use. Here's another image just to let you see the grass detail. This is at 400mm, so you can see that this is clearer on the same day that we were up for the clouding version, but the atmosphere, the air quality is actually getting better now. So that's it at 400mm, and that's the entire image. Here's another image that was captured in the day, and I'll take that into 67%, and you can see all the detail that the lens captured on that day as well. Here's another one at 100mm, and again you can see the detail on the fence. If I take that down to the corners here, you can see, yes, there is a very, very slight softening here, but nothing to write home about either. I'll just let you see that entire image. We could go up in here where the atmosphere is getting, or the air quality should I say, is getting a little bit murkier, but you can still see it's picked up all the detail on the pine. Last but not least, for this part of the video, you can see everything that's there, and even the detail on the fence and the way round. So that's that image there. Minimum aperture in the lens is f5, maximum was around about f22, but I'll be honest, I never shot at f22 at all with it. I think the maximum I shot at was f14. Another good thing about the lens is the actual zoom mechanism. Now, it can either be pulled or it can be twisted, whatever you prefer. I find that the push-pull worked best for me, and it just felt more natural than twisting the lens right out to the 400mm. The autofocus is fast in the lens, and that's thanks to the stepping motor in it. And when, in the case of the aircraft, I set the camera to continuous, and once I'd locked on, and it locked on really, really quickly to the aircraft, I managed to shoot off 7 or 8 shots, I think it was 8, before the buffering of the camera itself took over. And then I lost the shots until the buffering was nearly complete. But each one of these images, when it tracked every single shot, and every single shot was sharp. At the beginning of that day when I started shooting, it was not sharp, and that's down to me, that's down to lack of knowledge when actually shooting aircraft at those speeds. Yes, I knew that I would have my shutter speed up at 4,000th of a second for the jet and beyond for the jets to freeze them, but at the beginning, when I was still getting used to the lens as well, a few of the images were not as sharp as I was hoping, but that's down to user error and not the lens itself. The button controls on the lens I found easily accessible, and that was even with my eye to the viewfinder. And they included an AF and AFL lock, a 3-position focus limiter, an in-body autofocus button, and a 3-position optical stabilisation, which the mode 2 of that allowed for panning, and that panning allowed for tracking of the aircraft. So I found that extremely useful as well. The lens autofocus button, I'll be honest, I didn't use it too often, but at the times I did use it, it worked great. And that's simply because I was more used to using back button focus than actually using it in a lens. That's the only reason for that I genuinely forgot it was there at times. I actually regret now not making a video at the time I had the lens, but just with everything going on, I thought I'd better focus on getting the images and getting a review for you for the lens than actually filming me using it at the time. And for me, if you've tried Sigma lenses before, you will know whether it's the art range or this contemporary range with the X Mount series and Sony and L Mount. You'll know that the glass is good. I think Sigma have got over 60 years experience. I'd have to look that one up, but I think it's over 60 years experience in creating high quality optical elements for your cameras. And although I regret not making the video for you at the time, hopefully this will make up for it slightly. It did everything that I wanted it to do, and it taught me a few things as well, which I really liked. The glass is great, it's multi-coated, it's great, the multi-coatings to cut down on flare and ghosting, and I was shooting just off of direct sunlight or lights, just off to the side of them, and I get no flaring or ghosting with any of the images, especially during the air show, because just for the time the air show happens, the sun's over basically behind the aircraft as they're flying past on the beach. It's a great lens. I'm going to add it in the next year. I'm going to add it to my camera kit. It's a definite, because that focal range, especially for long distance hikes with no weight, is really, really good. And I will be adding that to my kit bag in the next year. I can't directly compare this to the Fujinon 100-400 because I've never used the lens. So I can't make any comparisons whatsoever. So hopefully just with this video, it's just my opinion on how the lens performed for me and how I performed with the lens. If you were going to add this to your kit bag, you would not regret it. You definitely wouldn't regret it. I know there are some differences with f-stops between the 100-400 Fujinon and the 100-400 Sigma. I know there are differences there, but as I say, I can't compare this. I can only tell you how the lens was with me. Price-wise, it is under $1,000. I'll put the exact price on screen, but it's under $1,000. And the quality of lens, glass, weight, everything that you're getting for that price, except a lens collar, is definitely worth it. I think the lens collar comes in around about $130, $150 as well. So you factor that in if you want a lens collar for it. So, in summary, is it a good lens? Yes, it's a great lens, and I'm really grateful to Sigma for letting me borrow that. It's something that I've been honest, because of the type of photography I mainly do, I wouldn't have looked for such a reach. But at the same time, that's ignorance as well, because that 600mm opened up a whole new world to me. 400 was the furthest I'd ever been before, but that's 600mm. If they ever produce a teleconverter that fits or works with the X Mount as well, that could open up further reach. So we've just got all this going on that we have to see what the future holds. And I also hear, or I've read rumours that they may be releasing on the 5th, 10 to 15 I think it was. So I'm going to be looking out for that as well, because that would be interesting to see and possibly interesting to try. Hopefully you get something from the video. Hopefully you like the images that I produced using the lens, not what the lens produced. It's down to the photographer ultimately. All the glass and all the lenses is normally brilliant, but Sigma, I'm really, really enjoying the lenses and the cost of them as well. So I'll put a link below if you want to check out the Sigma lens, and I've got a couple of videos coming up. Another one with another Sigma lens, one of the prime lenses, the 23mm. Thanks again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.